David Brewster here on the 3 for All. This is 3 Paul Kossoff Licks from 1970, and I've had some requests to feature, some music and ideas from the late great blues rock guitar legend, a founding member of the band Free. He also formed Backstreet Crawler. But Paul Kossoff's a very important and influential guitarist, and he died, tragically young. He was only 25 when he passed away in 1976, but his influence, with the band Free, live performances, albums, everything, his influence was everywhere. Up-and-coming players and players on the scene looked to Paul, this really stinging, bending and vibrato. And his playing style almost makes him sound like an insect, this biting and stinging, sharp attack, very interesting guitarist and very unique. And I think, enough time has passed, a lot of younger players don't realize, some of these really important players from the 70s. Paul Kossoff, Tommy Bolin, Michael Bloomfield, Rory Gallagher, there's a whole bunch of people like that, Terry Kath, very important players that kind of died or passed away in their prime. Now I'm going to follow this lesson with a Chordplay episode for free, because not only was Paul Kossoff's, lead and licks and his, lead guitar ideas really unique and interesting, his chord ideas, were very interesting too. He had a very interesting chord vocabulary. And he really, for the time period, late 60s, early 70s, he was really taking some chances and really stretching out and trying different things with lead and with rhythm, and chords. So Paul's a dynamic guitarist. So if you like this lesson, hang around and check out the Chords at Free, which we're going to dive a little deeper into Paul Kossoff's music. First lick's this intense bending phrase, which is kind of a signature, trademark from Paul Kossoff. This very dynamic and expressive and intense, bending and vibrato. Something like this. One more time. So we're basically in B minor pentatonic. And he's basically starting with this A, going to bend that up a whole step, and then grab this D there on the high E string. So you're kind of doing this, oblique bending, but you're not doing it at the same time. You're going to separate the notes. So do the bend, and that's that first phrase. So you're going to bend this A up to B, grab that D note, then you're going to release that bend back down to A, and then you want to pick the A and bend it back up a whole step. So there's a lot happening right there with really just two notes, but we're manipulating one of those notes with bending like this. And then you hear this. So grab that A, grab B there on the high E string, and then pull off A down to that F sharp like this. And then right there you want to grab this D, bend that up a whole step to E. And then you hear him basically return that note back down to D, and then he pulls off this A down to F sharp, almost like a pull off on a double stop, like that. And then you hear that A to F sharp, and then you're going to hear this E note bend up to F sharp. And when he bends this E up to F sharp, he also catches that A note as a double stop or oblique bend, like that. So really slow. And then one more time up to speed. Okay, next up we've got this hybrid picked E blues scale idea. It's really interesting. It's kind of quieter, something like this. One more time. So we're basically in E blues right there. And he's basically hybrid picking the top two strings and then picking the G right there. And he's grabbing that B flat. He's basically doing kind of a pull-off after he plucks all that together like that. So he's plucking the G string with the pick, and then he's also hybrid picking the B and the high E with his fingers like that. Really interesting little phrase. And then you want to do that again. And then you want to do this G, A, G. And then you're going to grab that A and bend that up basically a whole step. And then end on that E note right there on the D string. So one more time, kind of slow. And then one more time up to speed. And I just like phrases like that, where it's kind of different and unusual. I'm a big fan of the flat 5, of course, and the blues scale. Just a really interesting, kind of outside the box phrase, too. Cool stuff. Now, speaking of outside the box ideas, here's a sweep lick from Paul Kossoff, and keep in mind this is 1970, so most people don't even think about sweeping back then, but I have seen some early examples of sweeping and raking, into different notes from B.B. King and Chet Atkins, and here's Paul Kossoff noticeably sweeping like this. One more time. So we're in E minor, or E blues, you could think. And he's basically grabbing this, E, it's kind of like an E minor 7 technically. So he's grabbing this E minor arpeggio here, that E, G, and B note. And he's going to grab this D note, which is implying E minor 7, and then you're going to pull off, D to B, and then A to G. And then right there on that G note, you want to shift down to F sharp. Which is the 9th right there in the key of E. So really slowly we're doing. And really the sweep is just the first 3 notes right here. And he does that 3 times in a row. And then the last time just add vibrato on that F sharp. And it almost reminds me of Woody Woodpecker a little bit. So like that. And he's doing that really quick, kind of rake or sweep in there. Just a little hint of Woody Woodpecker in there. Here's a bonus lick from this footage, and it's this expressive melodic phrasing, with some bending. I had nothing to do with the trippy, visuals that they added to this footage. I don't know if that was the TV station or what, but the lick's something like this. One more time. So we're basically in E minor pentatonic once again. And he's coming down this E, D, and then grabbing this A note on the G. And you're going to bend that A up to B and back. Like that. So come down, do the bend and release, and then grab that G to A right there at the end. And then do that same thing again. And after you come down like that, right there, you're going to do that G, A, G, slide back to that F sharp, and then grab D and end on E right there. Something like that. And Paul definitely did a lot of licks like that, where it was very aggressive, lots of energy, lots of pick attack, really digging in. And tons of, just feel and this gritty expression, really cool stuff. Alright, that's going to wrap this episode of 3 for All with 3 Paul Kossoff licks from 1970. And as I mentioned earlier, he's just a very important and often overlooked, guitarist. And most people, when they, hear his name or they think of the band Free, they think of All Right Now. And that's pretty much it. Maybe the song Mr. Big, they might think of that too. But that's basically the extent of most people's knowledge as far as Free or Paul Kossoff. And that's why I want to follow this with a Chordplay episode to show you, some of his chord ideas. Because aside from, All Right Now, there's a ton of things that Paul did, whether it's lead or chords and rhythm, that's very exciting, interesting, inspiring, and something you definitely want to check out and tap into. So this is just the first, part, the three for all. But I'm going to follow this with a Chordplay, so stay tuned. And there's going to be more of Paul Kossoff and Free very soon. So anyway, leave some feedback and comments. Please subscribe to Melodic Lessons, and I'll be back before you know it with more content and material. Thank you.